This video is designed to give you an idea of what it means to find intercepts, which is where a line crosses the x-axis and or the y-axis. Here's an example of a line, y equals 2x plus 3, that I've graphed for you. And what we want to know is, what are these 2 points, the places where it crosses the y-axis and the x-axis? So where it crosses the y-axis, we'd like to find that point. How can we do that? Well, simply generate an XY input-output chart where if the point is on the y-axis, x value must be 0. That's because we haven't gone either direction. We haven't gone over here to the left, or we haven't gone over here to the right. We are simply right here at this point. So if we're doing that, we put in 0 for x, and then what we have is y equals 0 times 2, or 2 times 0, plus 3. And so, of course, that's 3, which means y is 3. What we've discovered is that this is the point 0, 3. And, of course, that's true. The x value must be 0, and the y value is wherever it crosses that line. So, in order to find this other intercept, which is the x-intercept, in other words, where it crosses the x-axis, so this would be the x-intercept, and it's a point. The x-intercept, of course, we can find because that means if it's on the x-axis, the y value of that point is 0. So we can plug in 0 for y and solve for x. Now this is a little harder to do because you have to do a little solving. But if you substitute 0 in for y and solve for x, of course you subtract 3 from each side, then you're going to get 2x equals negative 3. Divide each side by 2, and you wind up with x equals negative 3/2. You can check that for yourself. That means it's negative 3/2 or negative 1.5. So negative 3/2. So that means this other point is negative 3/2, 0. So this has allowed us to find the intercepts for this line by simply doing a chart that is inputting 0 for x and finding out whatever y is that makes the equation true, and then putting 0 in for y and finding out whatever x value makes that equation true to go along with that 0. So we found these 2 ordered pairs. Every line that isn't a vertical line or a horizontal line will have 2 intercepts unless it goes through the origin, in which case it has both of those intercepts at the same time because it goes through the point 0, 0. So our next slide will discuss what happens with either a horizontal or vertical line. Here we have a horizontal line. This is actually the equation y equals 3. That is, if we were to do an input-output chart, no matter what we put in for x, let's say 0, y is 3. So that would be this point right here, 0, 3. So in fact, we have found the y-intercept because this is where it intersects the y-axis. So the y-intercept is 0, 3. Now, what if we put in, let's say, negative 8 for x? Well, the equation is telling us that y equals 3. So we then have the point negative 8, 3. What if we put in, 4 for x? Well, we have 4, 3. In other words, it doesn't make any difference. 1, 2, 3. Oops, that wasn't correct. Let me erase that one. Let's try that point again. 4, 3, pardon me. So every point on this line is of the form some value of x, 3. Hence the equation y equals 3. because y is always 3 on a horizontal line. So the horizontal line has an equation of the form y equals a constant, some number. Okay? And the slope, as you may have gathered, and you can do this by finding the slope from any of these points that we've generated, you're going to find that the change in y over the change in x is going to be 0 over any number that you choose, depending on which two x's you pick. So let's say it winds up, if we go from the first point to the third point, the change in y is 0, the change in x is 4. What's 0 divided by 4? It's 0. So the slope of a horizontal line is 0, which makes perfect sense because it's flat. It has no tilt to it. So calling it a 0 slope is a perfectly legitimate thing to do. Let's go on to the next slide and look at a vertical line. Here we have a vertical line, which I'm claiming this equation is x equals -2. What we're saying is every value of x is -2. So if we put in -2 for x, what comes out for y? Well, it could be anything. In other words, it could be 4. That would be -2, comma, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be that point. It could be -2, comma, 0. That would be our x-intercept. So there's our x-intercept at -2, comma, 0. We could put in -2 for x and any value of y. How about -8? So -2, -8, that's going to be down here. And we are seeing that the equation for this line is x. So for a vertical line, has an equation of the form x equals a constant. Whatever that constant is, you can draw the line. So, for example, with this input-output chart, we could go on forever, but let's pick a couple of these points to calculate the slope now. So if we choose to go from the first point to the second point, the change in y is -4, and the change in x is 0. Anything divided by 0 is undefined. We cannot divide by 0. You can try that on your calculator, you get an error. And it makes sense because when you're dividing by a number, it's actually asking the question, what times that number gives you the numerator? So what times 0 gives you -4? Nothing. This is not possible. This is undefined. So we call this slope undefined. Okay? I hope that's helped. And generating the x-intercept is -2, 0, because of course it crosses the x-axis at -2, 0. It, of course, also does not have a y-intercept because there is no, it parallels the y-axis the entire way, so it will never intersect with the y-axis. I hope this has helped.